end of everything.
You ready to roll? Roll. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين أجمعين وبعد. Assalamu alaikum to all the people out there and good afternoon to all the other people out there. And I have my brother with me, Brother Amandla. You can hear from the name, right? He's a Muslim. Wa alaikum salam, Brother Amandla. You can hear from the name that he's coming from a certain position, right? There's a certain position implicit in that name. And I'm here to ask him a couple questions because he's just hot off the aeroplane, right? So he's been ramping up his carbon footprint, so we're going to hate him afterwards for that. But right now, what we're going to be asking him about is about the situation in Guinea, Conakry. There are a few things we've been hearing about in Guinea, Conakry. First of all, there's some situation, Amandla, about Guinea being asked, I don't know if I'm getting my facts right, so rejig the question if you need to, about Guinea needing to pay reparations to France or something that they owe them money that they need to be paying. And
it's not so much reparations. It's more to do with when Guinea got its independence. It was only one of the 14 sub-Saharan African countries to get independence, full independence from France. What I mean by that is that they broke away the economic relations from France. They do not have the franc CFA currency, which you have in Senegal, which you have in Ivory Coast, which you have in other countries as well, Mali as well. And so Guinea, after they broke away, were effectively punished by France. The French troops came into Guinea and took away all the gold from the bank the day they won their independence. And also as well, there was something called Operation Persil, where the French basically printed counterfeit editions of Guinea's new currency and flooded it into the market, creating hyperinflation and basically causing havoc everywhere. So Guinea is quite an interesting sort of country. It's not as open, you could say, to the rest of the world as places like Senegal, but it's a country in a sense that has retained a certain level of itself. It's had to look more inwards rather than lean on France or lean on European powers. To sort of get where it is today.
Now I'm noted for bringing the pain, so I will ask questions that might be a little indelicate, but I'll try to approach them with as much tact as possible. And one of the questions was a question I asked in your inbox regarding the relationship between whom I call, and I'm going to incur the wrath of the entire Guinea Fulani population by saying this, the great Ahmed Sekou Toure. I am told that this appellation of great is not shared by the people of the Fouta Djallon, or the Fulani people, and I'd be intrigued to know why and if that is justified.
When I was in Guinea, one of the people I spoke to by the name of Abbas Ba, his family, going back 400 years, were the imams of Labé being the capital of Fouta Djallon. Now, he was imprisoned under Sekou Toure for about 7 years. He was tortured. He witnessed other people being killed. He was in a cell in deplorable conditions. He was literally given half a handful of rice to eat per day, in there for 7 years, and then released. He said to me that there was a campaign by Sekou Toure going on against his family because of the influence they had in Labé. These are Fulani, these are Pearl people, right? And for that reason, he thinks that Sekou Toure was not this great person that many people would have seen him, but actually a repressive ruler. According to Amnesty International, they say it's 50,000 people that were killed in Camp Bira, which is the famous camp in the center of Conakry. So there is a big problem in terms of the record.
If I may ask, what percentage of those people would have been Fulani?
I don't know. But there was a sense from what I picked up that the Fulbe were not as enthusiastic about breaking away from France and siding with Sekou Toure as other groups in the country. That being said, we shouldn't discount Sekou Toure's record. He managed to achieve something that those 13 other countries could not achieve. He also managed to, for a time, unify the different ethnic groups. Today, in today's Guinea, those groups are now being used as a sort of political football. The Susu, the Mandingo, and the sort of Fula are being politicized and being used against each other in order to further political ambitions. So that's something that Sekou Toure tried to sort of create a sense of unity amongst these different groups. Also as well, we should not forget that there were many attempts on his life, and also against Guinea itself. Amilcar Cabral was killed inside Guinea. The Portuguese tried to invade Guinea.
Amilcar Cabral of
Guinea-Bissau was killed inside Conakry.
Right. Because for some of the people listening, they may not be aware that there is more than one Guinea in Africa. Yeah. There's even an equatorial Guinea, apart from the Francophone Guinea-Conakry and the Lusophone Guinea-Bissau.
Exactly.
Of which Amilcar Cabral was the first president.
Right.
You said Amilcar Cabral, the first president,
was assassinated inside Conakry.
Yes.
There was also an attempted Portuguese invasion of Guinea as well. And of course, there were tense relations with France. Sekou Toure sort of blames Félix Houphouët-Boigny of Ivory Coast and Senghor of Senegal for also trying to stir up trouble as well. So there was a sense of him being under threat, but we can't say that justifies the level of.
To which my question would still be: why would the Fulbe or the Fulani feel an inordinate sense of victimhood than other ethnic groups of Guinea-Conakry?
To be honest, I can't. We know that the Fulbe in that area have a particular history, and I guess in Fouta Djallon, that was one of the heartlands of the Fulani people, as well as Messina, as well as Sokoto, as well as Sekou Toure in the north of Senegal. And there is a sense that is their place. They have really instituted themselves there. They've set themselves down. They have their villages, and perhaps it's a sense that power and that ability to manage their own affairs was going to be radically changed. This person I spoke to, Abbas Bar, he spoke about an incident where when Sekou Toure came into power, he disrupted the sort of traditional power structures that were in place. He spoke about his family being a family of leaders with people who looked up to them, and he said that Sekou Toure actually promoted someone who was maybe a subordinate up to a leader and sort of disrupted that sort of power structure. So it's not something which is particular to the Fulbe, but we saw this across West Africa. We saw this with Nkrumah, for example, in Ghana, that the Ashanti, for example, and even some of the other tribal groups were against Nkrumah because there was a sense that this new nation of Ghana was going to level off or sort of
threaten existing
power structures. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm welcoming the fact that you're back with us in London to deal with this particular issue is because recently I posted something about 100 Fulani being killed, massacred by Dogon militia in Mali. And of course we know that in northern Ghana there have been problems between Fulani herdsmen and farmers, and similarly in Benue State in northern Nigeria. And a friend of mine, an erstwhile friend of mine, mentioned that the Fulani, somewhat derisively in a tone, mentioned that the Fulani the Fulbe have always been slavers anyway, and almost with a sense of they deserved whatever happened to them. They had it coming to them for a very long time, and they were only receiving their just deserts. What I was hoping to get from you, and I hope I am not leading the witness by phrasing it in this way, what I was hoping to get from you is the extent to which the relationship was different or similar in Fouta Djallon as in Adamawa province in northern Cameroon, where my friend is from. In northern Cameroon, in that area called Adamawa, the easternmost extent of the Sokoto Caliphate, the relationship between the Fulanese jihadists and the local people was clearly one of master and subordinate, master and slave. In fact, of shameful report is the history that the Fulani used Adamawa, especially among the Tikir and the Mbum peoples, as a reservoir for slave raiding. And naturally, my friend, when she felt I was unduly sympathizing with the Fulani in Mali, thought that she would issue a corrective by showing me the attitude of the true colors, their true colors as typified in Adamawa. However, what I was at pains to point out to is the Fulani exist across a wide sweep
Very wide
of
sweep. Some 20 countries.
Exactly.
Or so. Yeah.
And the experience, while undoubtedly reprehensible in Cameroon, we cannot extrapolate from that this is their behavior across the entire Sudan corridor. I mean, tell me, what was the historical relationship between the Fulani, with the Fulbe, in Fouta Djallon, with the peoples, the other ethnic groups in that particular area? What
Well,
could you say about that?
it's a matter of historical record that the Fulanis of Fouta Djallon came there through conquest. Of the people there, the Jalunke, I think they're called, who were seen as the original inhabitants of the region, or at least inhabitants before the Fulanis. But the area now is
Were they Manding speaking people? Mande speaking? Inke in Manding tends to mean people.
Right.
Jalonke, the people of that.
Wait.
Yeah.
I think they were Mande speaking, not Mandinka, but Mande speaking.
Why
people.
does maybe it could be Khasonke, one of the other Mande languages. Yeah.
Right. I guess one of the issues I have with your friend's analysis is, I mean, these things happened hundreds of years ago. I mean, you can't just turn up 200 years later and say that you're here to correct historical wrongs and massacre a whole sweep of people. You know, it just doesn't make any sense.
I'm not sure she's saying that. I think what she is saying is that history didn't begin today.
Sure.
That there is a historical.
Okay, but we also must understand that the Fulani are one of the most diverse groupings out there. We have Fulani elites. We have the president of Nigeria, the president of Senegal,
Barrow.
All these.
Macky Sall.
You know.
Buhari.
Right.
Nigeria, you're
So you have these people who have, fantastic power in the region. You then have the herders. You then have the nomads. You have people from all over the region, all walks of life. You have no idea.
Do you think?
But
now that you've mentioned it, and I'm glad that you have. Do you think there is a sense abroad amongst people that there is a Fulani conspiracy afoot? Because you've mentioned 3 political leaders.
Yeah.
The ruler or the president of Senegal.
I think they're just a very organized. They live across a broad stretch. They're known for their education, for example, especially their Islamic education. So they have an advantage in that regard. They have a language.
Igbo and Yoruba in Nigeria might beg to differ, but go on.
they have a common language. I'm not sure if there's any tribe in Africa that you can go from one country to another with such a great distance and speak the same language effectively.
But can I ask this?
Yeah.
You mentioned major heartlands, Fouta Toure in northern Senegal,
Yeah.
the banks of the river between Mauritania and Senegal.
Yeah.
You mentioned Fouta Djallon in the highlands of Guinea.
Yeah.
You mentioned northern Nigeria, from Kebbi to as far as Adamawa in the Cameroon.
Yeah.
These are the 3 major heartlands of Fulani peoples in West Africa. Do you assume that, are people right to assume that that these 3 areas, concentrations of Fulbe, are working in concert with each other?
No, of course not. I mean,
That's what people are thinking, that
Yeah.
look, wherever you find Fulani now, they're in power in certain countries.
Sure.
They must be working towards a kind of hegemony.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, even though they have, you'll find Fulani at every section of society in those countries. We spoke about the president of Nigeria. We spoke about
Gambia.
villagers in northern Nigeria. We spoke about herders, roaming across the sort of Sahel belt, and now a threat of desertification and all these other things as well. So it's very easy to sort of look at a map and sort of say, well, Fulas are here and Fulas are there, and they have this position, that position. There must be a big conspiracy, but the reality is obviously not like that. I think now with all of the killing that's taking place, they are now becoming a bit more organized and seeing that, wow, we're being, Fulani are being killed in Mali, they're being killed in Burkina Faso, in northern Nigeria, in northern Ghana. So we need to have a certain level of further organization now.
So now that will reinforce.
But we have to also understand the nature of these conflicts. It's not a fuller conflict. This is not an ethnic conflict per se. Yes, it is heading in that direction, but the roots of these conflicts are not ethnically, they don't have ethnic roots. They have roots mainly, as we know, between herders and people who are settled in those areas amid a receding Sahel belt, amid a population explosion, right? In places like Niger, Nigeria, Mali as well, and an increased competition for resources. That's making things tougher. But it's not. But it's not actually.
It's not because they are Fulani.
It's not because they're Fulani.
And whichever, for example.
And I mean, even there's some Fulani who are even fighting among them, between themselves. Yeah. The Fulani who are settled and the Fulanis who are herders. Yeah. So this is not a Fulani conflict, but it is being perceived as such. As well as this, we then have another layer, which is a global war on terror, where it becomes very, very easy to just when you look at this in a sort of geopolitical way, you sort of think, well, this is an ethnic group that seems to be, you sort of choose your target, so to speak, and that's also helping to sort of fuel this idea that the Fulanis are the problem.
So now you have two sets of conspiracy theories. There's one conspiracy theory. This is a Fulbe. This is an attempt at Fulbe hegemony across the Sahel. That is from one angle.
Right.
From the other angle, there's a sense that if you look at it, if this is to be interpreted in religious terms, it must be AFRICOM with their base in Djibouti seeking excuses to permanently interfere in the politics of not just Francophone West Africa, but West Africa in general, so that it is being presented as a religious conflict, jihadism versus crusaders, in order to justify why the West needs to come in and protect these people from themselves.
And this is the big problem of the war on terror, that it presents these things as being religiously driven and often as a sort of battle between good and evil. We spoke about the Dogon, the massacre in Sagu, one of the villages in Mali. I mean, many of the Dogons are Muslim themselves.
Yes.
So it really isn't so simple.
Again, it just so happens that the best known, perhaps, what's the word I'm looking for, ethnic group that does livestock in the Sahel are the Fulbe.
Right.
There has also been conflicts between the Tuareg and the Songhai.
Of course.
Because the Tuareg themselves being, and herders as well, the Tuareg being herders, have often encroached upon the farmlands of the Songhai people. Yeah. So they've always, it's just that the Fulani have to be the biggest ethnic, in terms of numbers and sweep, geographical sweep across the Sahel or the Sudan corridor. They have to be the big. We finish in a minute. Yeah, we wrap this up in a minute. Yeah, so basically I think it just happens that they're the largest group, but also you have the Tuareg and the Songhai, and the same sort of dynamic is taking place. And it's a competition over the ever-diminishing resources as a result of desertification.
Right. And I think there's another dimension, that there is a historical rivalry between the Tuareg and the Fulani as well. And we saw, for example, when
it goes back to the destruction of Timbuktu.
It goes right back, but it's re-emerged recently. Because when the sort of separatist Tuareg who
Ansardine and Akim.
More the ones who
the Azawad
movement. When they started, sort of beating their drums up in northern Mali, their lands are adjacent to Fulani lands, and Fulanis began to get worried as their livestock was sort of being poached, and for Fulanis, livestock is wealth, right? So this is a big deal. Trying to put that in sort of Western terms, how much of a big deal this is, and this then drove some of them to go and join groups like Ansar Dine, which had Tuareg in them,
Right.
but which
Yes,
weren't
yes.
necessarily Tuareg separatist groups, right? And this then, you could say, was a factor in them joining these groups, some of which have Al Qaeda links, and then to later on be seen as being connected to Al Qaeda and being connected to, terrorism, if we can use that word, and then that label has now been expanded to include other Fulani as well, as unfair as that is.
Are we being led to wonder, given the physical appearance of the Tuareg,
Right.
being pastoralist,
Yeah.
and following on from that, the physical appearance of the Fulbe, the Fulani,
Yeah.
also being pastoralist?
Right.
Are we being nudged in that direction of a kind of sinister othering, that these people are not as African as the people with whom they're coming into conflict?
Sure. I mean, these people have been there for hundreds of years in that region, and historically there's always been a jostling for power. That's just historical fact. I personally don't think that the one can just draw a line and have Africans on one side and non-Africans on the other side, when in fact all of these peoples inhabit Africa. I mean,
Especially given the extent. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want to make any unfair any comparisons to the disadvantage of any other ethnic group.
Yeah.
But the Fulani are spectacularly known for their intermixing
Intermixing,
with
yeah.
any other ethnic groups with whom they come into contact.
Yeah.
I know at least 10 Fulani families,
Yeah.
each of which is married. Each partner is married to a different person
Right.
in that particular country.
Yeah,
I even
yeah.
have a Fulani friend from Cameroon
Yeah.
married to an Ashanti girl
Yeah.
in London here, and that is actually more common than is not
Yeah.
with the Fulani.
Yeah.
It's only unless you go really out into the Guinea,
Yeah.
this road,
I mean,
Fulani.
yeah. I mean, the fact that we talk about in northern Nigeria, we talk about Hausa Fulani.
Fulani in Gida, or they call it Fulani in Gida, yeah.
Right. Is an understanding
Yep.
that
It's hard to untease the one from the other.
one from the other.
Yeah.
So we,
And a funny thing is, if you look at the Gerewol ceremony in Republic du Niger, during the Gerewol ceremony, when they monopolized the water wells for their meeting, the annual meetings and so forth, you find Tuareg joining the Fulani, the Fulbe, Gerewol ceremonies.
Yeah.
These things used to happen in the past. The relationship between these peoples were they were more based on cooperation than conflict.
we mentioned this before, but some there's a sort of founding myth of Senegal where I think a king sort of came up from the water and sort of like 4 tribes. He sort of became like the ancestor of 4 tribes. So they say the Fulani, they say the Serer, they say the Jola, I think, and even perhaps the Mandinka, if I've got it wrong or right, I'm not sure. But
Did you mention, did the Wolof get a look in?
I'm not sure if the would have got a look in that one.
Right. I'll keep this story really quietly if I will. Remember, you live in Senegal.
The point is the point is that Fulani are considered as part of the countries they live in as the other tribes.
The ancient kingdom of Tekrur.
Right, exactly.
It was Pulpulde speaking.
Yeah.
Or Pular, you say in that part of the world,
Yeah.
Pular, Pulpulde, the language.
Yeah.
The people, if you read any work on the Fulani by people such as Amadou Ampateba, the great Malian savant and scholar on the Fulani people, he will tell you one of the oldest kingdoms in Africa, the kingdom of Tekrur, was Fulfulde speaking.
Right.
And if the people were not Fulani in ethnic race,
Right.
they were definitely Fulani in ethnicity and culture in terms of cultural outlook.
Yeah.
Content. I think we're going to wrap this up now. Brother, thank you very much
Thank you very
for this
much.
little address.
Okay.
This is content over everything. It's a young. He's a rival station to you. I think he better declare interest. Why don't you better declare interest?
Let them know where your station is, where to find you.
Get me on Twitter, TJ Amandla. That's my name, Amandla Masio. at TJ Amandla on Twitter. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Amandla, thank
Okay.
you very
Thank you very
much,
much.
my
Thank you very
brother.
much. I
Now,
enjoyed that.
Let's take it off. Let's take it off message now. Content. I just, bro, because he lives in Senegal.
You're the person. His content's your thing, right?
He's a young brother. He's trying to do great things, and sometimes, you know, like I think that was a really wonderful talk he had just now with
Right.
Mr. Corbyn's brother. So, yeah, onwards and upwards. Amar, I may not see you for the Ramadan.
Content over everything. From your belly. Man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
Okay. So the accusation is you insincerely, you acted in ill faith. You framed a debate between me and Adnan at the halfway point to make me look like I was the loser, which is fine. That's your channel. You can do what you want. Adnan brought a number of points. Oh, tell him hi. Tell him hi. Yes. Sorry. Adnan made